all, and welcome to another Avatar The Last Airbender retro review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Book 2, Chapter 3, Return to Omashu. And as usual, I'm going to be taking a look at my 5 dislikes and 5 likes about this episode, just to cut away the fat, and I'm going to be starting with my top 5 dislikes about this episode first. The first thing I didn't like about this episode was the fact that the resistance in Omashu seems a bit stupid. So why, after King Bumi gave up on Omashu, not necessarily gave up on Omashu, but told his men to surrender, why wouldn't they all just evacuate then? Or, try to do something else? It doesn't take the Avatar, some 12-year-old kid, to tell you that it's better to leave and fight another day, and yet that's exactly what happens. So I guess that's my main problem, where you have these resistance fighters who used to be soldiers that protected the city that are now trying to kill the governor's family, and wouldn't that incite some type of retaliation? I mean, yeah, they're looking to die for what they believe in, but come on, you gotta think about it. These are grown men. Don't you think that they would think to get out of the city while they still have a chance? Like I said, it may be a nitpick on my part, but I still don't like it. And the fourth thing that I didn't like about this episode, in conjunction with the last thing, is why wouldn't they just leave? Why wouldn't they figure a way out? You have a lot of opportunities. There's only one way in and out of this city, so you have a lot of opportunities to come up with something. Just, well, rush the gate or something. Like, the guards aren't all firebenders. The occupiers are not all firebenders. So why not just rush the gate? You have a couple of earthbenders with you, just boom, 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 and you're done. Wouldn't you think that would be like a good strategy to get all the people out that you can, instead of just staying there and inciting some type of response from the Fire Nation? Wouldn't the Fire Nation just burn the city to the ground after all these attacks? And the third thing I didn't like was the weird, dumbass statue of Fire Lord Ozai that's being built in Omashu to, I guess, be a tribute to the Fire Lord. I mean, I would think that would be a waste of resources, but maybe that's just me. The fourth thing I didn't like about this episode was the baby subplot, where I guess it's Momo that attracts the baby, and the baby tries to grab his tail, and he's trying to get away, and he gets scooped up into the escape attempt for the refugees. The saving grace about this subplot, I believe, is the fact that it leads directly to Aang meeting with King Bumi, which is totally fine in my book because Bumi does give Aang some great advice, and it sends Aang on to his next mission to find a new earthbending teacher. So I really do think that that's a good thing, but I still didn't like the baby subplot. And the last thing that I didn't like about this episode is a small one. I really had to stretch to find this one, but no Zuko or Iroh. Any episode that doesn't have Zuko or Iroh is immediately downgraded in my book, just because they're such great characters and we shouldn't have episodes without them. Now we're moving on to the likes that I had with this episode, and the first thing that I liked was the fact that Azula is manipulating Ty Lee into joining her elite team because she realizes that tracking her brother and her uncle may be too obvious. Carrying around a royal concession behind her is going to make her slow. She needs to be able to move quick, she needs to be agile, and she needs to be able to maneuver and things like that without lugging this big old ship around. The one thing that I did want to question is, okay, she knew where these people were, May and Ty Lee, but why didn't she just bring some of her elite firebenders with her? I don't know, I feel like that would be a good move right off the bat, and if she found May or ran into Ty Lee somewhere, she could be like, alright, you guys are dismissed, I've got my friends now. But yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Ty Lee is a performer, she performs on tightropes, she's an acrobat, she's like a chi blocker, and so, she's going to be a great addition to the team for her skills, but she doesn't really want to go, and then Azula has to convince her to go by, sabotaging her show. Then running into May is just completely on board because she's super bored. The second thing I liked about this episode was just the introduction of May and Ty Lee. New threats for our characters and new obstacles for our characters to overcome. They have to fight off these new threats that they don't fully understand yet. May is really good at throwing things, and she's very deadly at it. Ty Lee is good at blocking her chi. She's a great fighter and a great martial artist, and it's just really great to see that our characters are having to figure out new ways around certain problems. The third thing that I liked about this episode was the fact that there's a reason for Aang to be here doing what he's doing. First he was here to get earthbending training from King Bumi. However, he finds that the Fire Nation has taken over Omashu. The good thing about this is that, yes, we do have some type of motivation for Aang to be where he is, instead of, oh, we ran into some hippies and now we're going to go into this cave and we're going to trust in love and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, now we have a reason for him to be in an important place at a significant time to come for someone specifically. Now we have some compelling action. Now we care whether or not he makes it through, and we care about the character, but we care that he succeeds in this particular mission. And now we're getting somewhere. So I appreciate that it's not just some lackluster romp through a cave or some kind of, I don't know, like, when I think of the Cave of Two Lovers, I also have to mention the Great Divide and how useless that was. The fourth thing that I liked about this episode was Bumi's reasoning for staying and essentially giving up Omashu to the Fire Nation, letting them invade, rather than fighting them off, because he's a powerful earthbender. He could potentially, you know, fight them all off if he wanted to. The problem then comes when he's putting his people at risk and, you know, putting his city at risk. It's best to give up the city now and then at the right moment strike and take it back, instead of fighting and fighting, because if they fight the first invasion force off, the Fire Nation's just going to send more invasion forces, and then more people will get hurt, more people will die. And so King Bumi is waiting for the right time to strike, in part because he wants to protect the people that he is in charge of. And Aang actually did him a favor by leading his people out of the city, so he's the only one left, along with all of these Fire Nation troops. So that actually is brilliant, and I really like that. And it's a good lesson for Aang to wait and listen for the right moment to strike, in regards to not just his bending, but in regards to life in general. He has to learn to wait and listen, to be patient, and to act on certain opportunities. So that, I loved it, and you know, I really, it makes a lot of sense to me, and it plays into stuff that Aang is going to do later, so that is what I appreciate. The final thing that I liked about this episode was the fact that Aang had to tell the Resistance Earthbenders to leave the city. And like I said before, they shouldn't have needed Aang to come along and say, hey, you should probably not fight, because this is a fight that you can't win. You're outnumbered, and you need to get the heck out of here. So I love that it took a 12-year-old coming along and suggesting that for them to even, you know, consider it. And then once he threw it out there, people are like, yeah, I want to get the hell out of here. I want to fight before. Yeah, let's get over that bridge. So I thought that was funny, and that's the last thing I enjoyed about it. I did want to make note of something else, is that while the Fire Nation invaded Omashu, it was really easy for them to just destroy the bridge. There's only one way into Omashu, unless you're an airbender, and then you can get in through a sewer access. However, there's one way for the Fire Nation to get into Omashu, and that's across a bridge. And had they just destroyed the bridge, I wonder how the Fire Nation would have tried to invade. So that's just my thing. You know, maybe they didn't think of that in the writing room, but at any rate, thank you so much for joining me for another Avatar The Last Airbender retro review. I think that ultimately it's a lot of fun doing these and going over them and watching these episodes and taking these notes and paying attention to certain things, and just it's been a lot of fun. So I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys, you know, leave some comments down below, like this video, share with your friends, and more importantly, I hope you guys watch the show, because it's worth watching. So with that, you know, be sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, I'm the Black Dragon, and I'll see you next time.